Hello boys and girls, this is Mr. Kelly and I'm back again with another background building book about the ocean. Today we're going to be reading a book called Exploring the Ocean. And our comprehension focus for today is going to be on making a connection. When we make a connection, we read something and then we think about, what did this reading make me think about? Or what did it remind me of? The boy and the girl in this picture are reading a book about fish. The boy is making a connection, and he's reminded of another book that he read about fish, and to something he saw on television. The girl who's reading the same book is making a different connection. This book reminds her of the fish that she has in her aquarium at home. So while we're reading today, I want you to try to make connections and think about, what does this book remind you of, or what does it make you think about? People have only explored a tiny part of the Earth's oceans. Scientists called oceanographers are eager to explore underwater ecosystems, but working in underwater environments can be challenging. Turn to the person that's with you. What do humans need to survive that we can't find underwater? Discuss with your partner and pause the video until you're ready to continue. One problem humans face underwater is not having air to breathe, just like in space. Many ocean animals get oxygen from water using their gills, but humans don't have gills. We can only breathe air. Another problem is the extreme cold. Humans cannot survive the freezing cold temperatures of the twilight and midnight zones like the animals who live there do. Engineers have developed suits and vehicles so people can explore underwater. These keep people safe and warm and provide oxygen, similar to what explorers need in outer space. People need different equipment to explore the different ocean zones. So let's review what we learned about the ocean this week. Turn to the person that's with you and discuss, what do you remember about the different zones of the ocean? Pause until you're ready to continue. The sunlight zone is the easiest to explore. We only need a few pieces of equipment since it's so close to the surface. Have you ever opened your eyes in the bathtub or when swimming? Everything looks blurry. Goggles keep our eyes dry so we can see clearly underwater. People who want to observe ocean life have another problem. Underwater, we can only hold our breath for a few seconds before we have to lift our heads above the water and breathe. When people want to explore farther below the surface than a snorkel tube can reach, they have to bring their own oxygen with them, just like astronauts do in outer space. Air tanks also allow oceanographers to spend more time underwater. Swimming while wearing a heavy air tank is not easy. Human feet aren't well suited for moving in the water because we mostly live on land. Ocean explorers needed engineers to design something to help them swim underwater more easily. Engineers looked at the way water animals use their tail fins or webbed feet to move. Their solution was giving divers something to make their feet work more like a duck or a fish: swimming fins. The deeper a diver goes in the ocean, the colder it is. Divers need a way to stay warm in the cold water. Wetsuits are special suits that keep divers warm and dry, protect their skin from scratches, and help them float. Oceanographers wanted to explore the ocean's twilight and midnight zones, but wetsuits didn't provide enough protection. The deeper we go, the more the water's weight presses on our bodies. This pressure makes exploring the twilight zone in just a wetsuit unsafe. To solve the problem, engineers designed dive suits made out of hard materials to protect divers from water pressure. This allowed them to explore deep in the ocean. Engineers also invented submersibles, underwater vehicles that take oceanographers down into the twilight and midnight zones. Turn to the person that's with you and discuss, what do you notice about this submersible? There are no wrong answers, so take a look, make an observation, and share it with the person that's with you. Pause the video until you're ready to continue. Submersibles are made of sturdy material so they do not break under the heavy water pressure, and they're filled with oxygen for breathing. They also have cameras so oceanographers can take pictures, and radio communication so the crew underwater can talk to the crew on the big boat above. Engineers have also designed remotely operated vehicles called ROVs for ocean exploration. These ROVs do not have any people inside. They're controlled by the people on the ship. ROVs are able to explore parts of the ocean that are difficult or dangerous for people to go to. Where else did we learn about robots helping people? Think if you can make a connection from this reading to something we've read in the past. The connection I made was to the robots that helped the astronauts when they were exploring space, like the moon or the rover that explored Mars. ROVs let scientists discover animals deep in the midnight zone, animals we didn't even know existed. Look at some of the amazing life under the ocean that engineers have helped scientists discover. We wouldn't know these wonderful plants and animals existed if engineers hadn't invented ways to explore the deepest layers of the ocean. Imagine how much more we'll learn about the ocean's ecosystems as we keep on engineering and exploring. Now, let's take a quick break from our reading to learn a little bit more about the deepest parts of the ocean.
Deep in the Pacific Ocean, near China, there's a long crescent-shaped area that's one of the most special places on Earth. It's called the Mariana Trench, and it's the deepest part of the ocean. It's so far down that for a long time, scientists weren't even sure if anything could live there. But then we finally were able to explore it, and it turns out that there are some awesome forms of life down there. The Mariana Trench is almost 11,000 meters, or about 36,000 feet deep. It's hard to even imagine how far down that is, but think about how far you would go if you walked for 2 hours, like for as long as a movie. Yeah, that would be a really long walk, but you'd end up going pretty far, right? Yeah, well, that's about as far down as the deepest part of the ocean is. If you put the biggest mountain on Earth inside it, the top of the mountain wouldn't even come close to the surface of the water. And when you get that deep into the ocean, it becomes really hard for anything to survive. For one thing, it's super dark. The light from the sun can't go through all that water, and almost everything that's alive needs sunlight to live, so it's really important. It's also really cold. It's so cold that if it got even a tiny bit colder, the water would freeze into ice. And there's tons of pressure down there too. Pressure is what happens when something pushes on something else. Like if I press my hands against this table, my hands are putting pressure on the table. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, all the water above creates lots of pressure, so much that it wouldn't be safe for people or almost any other living thing to swim around down there. The pressure would be way too strong. Between the darkness and the cold and the pressure, it's very hard for anything to survive at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. But there are some special types of life that can, like something called a sea cucumber. No, not that kind of cucumber, Squeaks. Even though they have a similar name, sea cucumbers aren't anything like the cucumber fruit we eat in salad sometimes. They're animals. They kind of look like big worms, and they live on the ocean floor, where they look for things to eat, like tiny animals, so small you wouldn't even be able to see them. Another type of animal that lives in the deepest part of the ocean are amphipods, which look a little bit like shrimp. Most of the animals that are similar to amphipods and live in other places are pretty small. They usually only get about a centimeter long or about as long as a fingernail. But the amphipods at the bottom of the Mariana Trench are much bigger. They can be 20 centimeters long or about the size of a grown-up's hand. There are also lots of another type of living thing called foraminifera, or just forams for short, that live in the deepest part of the ocean. There are more than 400 kinds of them living in the Mariana Trench, and they're not animals or plants or even fungi like mushrooms. mushrooms. They're a type of living thing called a protist. These forams can be about the same size as the amphipods, or even bigger, up to 30 centimeters long. All the types of life in the deepest part of the ocean are soft with no hard bones. They can't have bones because the pressure down there is so strong that it would just turn them into mush. That strong pressure also makes it very hard for us humans to go explore the Mariana Trench, which is why there's a lot scientists still don't know about it. We can send people down there in special types of submarines that keep them safe from the pressure and the cold, or we can send robots without people. I know, Squeaks, I would love to go exploring there too. But it's very hard and expensive to build submarines or robots that can go that far down. Scientists have only done it a few times, so we know a little bit about what's down in the deepest part of the ocean, but a lot of it is still a big mystery.
So now that we've read and seen a little bit more about exploring the ocean, would you want to explore the ocean? And what inventions or tools would you use to help explore? Think about what types of things you would need to be an ocean explorer. Turn and discuss with the person that's with you. Pause the video until you're ready to continue. So finally, we come to our glossary. We'll go over some of the new words that we saw in our reading today, including diver, ROV, the robot, submersible, fins, diving suit, goggles, snorkel, oceanographer, and wetsuit. Now, just to remind you, our comprehension focus today was on making connections. So now that we've read and seen some more about ocean exploration, think about, what did this remind you of, or what does it make you think about? So good readers are able to make connections between what they're reading and other things in their life. And there's different types of connections that you can make. Maybe you're going to make a text-to-text connection, and something in this book reminded you of something you had read in another book. Another type of connection is a text-to-me connection. That's when something you read in the book reminds you of something from your life or something that happened to you. Another type of connection is a text-to-world connection, and that's when we read something that reminds us of something that's happening in the larger world around us. So what type of connection did you make? Turn to the person with you and tell them what this book made you think about, or what it reminded you of. Good luck, take care, and have a great day, boys and girls. Bye!